So, what do you think of us taking a quick peek for this first session? I could show the audience your chart that I've kind of sculpted here.
Oh boy, bear
And
my
then,
boy.
yeah, drum roll.
Scorpio to Scorpio. It's just like
Yeah, I love it. All
sure.
right, Mike. So let's see what we can drum up here. So this is for everybody interested. This is a little quick rendition of Michael Moon's astrology chart as I've kind of conveyed it here.
Asian as well. Cool.
A little bit of the Chinese astrology here. I think I like that you said Asian because I have a friend who's been saying that it's not so good to call it strictly Chinese. East Asian is kind of what I'm starting to use as a term for this particular astrology of Ba Zi.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that you were born in the year of the Earth Monkey. Yeah.
Aquarian monkey.
An Aquarian monkey is an awesome. It's a consciousness. It's very monkey is the most intellectual of the Chinese signs.
Mm-hmm.
It really uses its brain power and can be very scientific, especially the Earth monkey. Earth energy in Chinese astrology tends to not move forward until there has been data presented that looks like it aligns with the intention of what's happening. The monkey is, what's that?
My scientific background.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Right. And the wood rabbit is a symbol. Really, it's actually more intuitive. What they say in East Asian astrology is that the day is really the crowning symbol. For you to be a wood rabbit on the day means that wood is your primary element in Chinese East Asian astrology. I think it's interesting that wood in East Asian philosophy relates with Jupiter.
Yep.
There is a connection to, Jupiter in a way is like the liver of the galaxy.
Yep.
It's making sure that asteroids don't come in and, because of the gravity of Jupiter, it has this thing where any huge asteroid coming near our galaxy will get locked into Jupiter's gravitational pull and launched away.
Or sucked in completely.
Right. Well, yes. Or it just goes right into the center of Jupiter. Yeah.
It's our great protector.
That's right. And they say that the liver resonates with that as well. So to be the wood rabbit typically means that there is an intuition and also an executive function that works well with other people. Tries to get other people to see what it's doing in order for it to have greater energy. The rabbit can be known for that kind of magic. Now, what I wanted to kind of cycle through here for everybody watching, everybody knows that I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer. And in Vedic astrology, we consider it important. Oh, what's that, Michael?
I love it. It's just so radical.
Yes, absolutely. The tropical Vedic it's an emerging movement for sure. And how I've written this out, we can see that Michael's Atmakaraka, for everybody interested, that is of the 7 traditional planets, not including the outer planets or asteroids, of the Saptagrahas, the planet with the highest degrees is considered to be the Atmakaraka. And in a way, it's like a second sun. They say that the sun is the Atmakaraka for everybody, and it resonates with Atma, which is soul. Now, the word Karaka just simply means signifier. So there is a signification that the moon also resonates with your Atma, with your soul. I think it's very interesting that you call yourself Michael Moon and that you are the sensitive person that you are. And when the Atmakaraka is conjunct to any other planets, there's a big resonance, a big confluence of the soul nature with whatever planets it's involved with. It's interesting to me that this moon is conjunct Mars in Mars's own sign of Scorpio, and it's also conjunct Neptune. There's a real emphasis here of a mysticism of Neptune. Probably this being the moon as the Atmakaraka, what this might mean is that you have been feeling throughout your whole life in a lunar way what exactly it is that your purpose is here in life, just like we all are. You'd probably follow it in a very lunar, intuitive, feeling way from within. And Neptune has probably caused you to think a lot about what you're supposed to be doing. And you had to separate the wheat from the chaff throughout your life. That's probably one of the reasons that astrology has been good for you, is because Neptune will give these feelings of a bliss, of some internal feeling that you could probably just, this is almost a signature of somebody who could just go and drink themselves into oblivion. And the Neptune is saying you're getting a bliss. And after a few years, Neptune will be like, psych, you actually are completely off your track in life. But it's through the pain of that the person begins to realize that there was something all the time, a real bliss that I was supposed to be moving towards.
Luckily, I've never had the addiction thing in my life, but
Good.
I have, where that has come out is in chronic health stuff. To,
It's the second house.
and connected to a sensitivity, maybe oversensitivity in terms of day-to-day life. Sometimes
I see.
that's where it's, Chiron North Node, etc. pops out in that way as well. But keep going.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
But I definitely recognize traditionally that addiction thing could easily be there. But
right, but
somehow, I also started yoga at a very early age, and that I think has helped me as well. And the health stuff's almost forced me. I can't be addicted because I'm too sensitive.
Maybe that's interesting. Maybe that's a part of what's going on.
I can't drink. I have a drink and I just pass out. Like I feel awful for days.
Right.
In some ways, because
that's amazing. That I would say that is a positive thing. Being that sensitive is definitely going to keep you away from anything that's not good for you at a physical level. Now, it's interesting to me. One of the things I wanted to say is, so the moon rules the 10th sign from Libra rising. And you actually have your 10th house cusp here in Cancer. So this moon, being the Atmakaraka of a Libra rising, kind of shows that you would be somebody who has a big emphasis of 10th house things. Really what, in a lot of ways, what's being conveyed is that this moon being in the second house, doing what it's doing, is learning very slowly over time to be at its most best practical functional energy, where there's nothing wasted, where you probably often push yourself to do work that is functional and practical for yourself or for whatever situation that you're in. The best example I can think of is, an astrology chart. When you do it, you probably are very interested in making sure that you've been building on your astrology practice by seeing what everyone else is doing and also pioneering beyond what everybody else is doing. It's kind of that 10th house emphasis, putting yourself in the pressure zone to be the best at whatever it is that moon is trying to do. Music was my other interest that I wanted to say, where when you write a song, you're probably very interested in, what do I have to do in my life to align myself so that when I sit on my creative desk, I am pushing myself to write the best song that I could possibly write. And how do I push myself to do that? That's because the moon rules that 10th house. Would you say that you resonate in some ways with what I'm kind of emphasizing here? Oh, I wonder if I lost Michael here. Oh, looks like I did. That's okay. Hey there, Michael. For everybody watching, it looks like we have a little bit of a funky technological situation happening. Michael right now is connecting back to the computer that we've got going on here. Story of my life. Technology is always a thing. So if we happen to lose any of our connection through what we've been doing, I might just have to edit this video or do something like that. But it looks like Michael Moon's back with us now.
Oh, I'm back.
Hey, buddy. Sorry we lost you there for a moment.
Yeah, did you catch the recording?
Yeah, well, I've just been recording this whole time. I figure I can either edit it later or we can just keep rocking and rolling
Oh,
as we
oh,
are.
so it's still going on your end.
Yep,
All right.
yep, yeah. As long as it's all still going on my end, then we're okay.
Okay.
So, are you all good, Michael?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I was fine, and then you just froze, so I'm not sure.
I see. Okay. Well, if that happens again, I can either edit this later or we can just keep rocking and rolling.
Yep.
All right, my friends. So just to get you up to speed, what I was just mentioning was that
Mars, Neptune, Moon.
yes, and I was particularly picking at the idea that your moon, being the Atmakaraka, your moon rules the 10th sign from Libra, and as well, your MC, your actual 10th house cusp, falls into Cancer. So my interest is there's sort of a signification here that everything 10th house is being moved through that moon. Of course, the moon is the dispositor of the 10th house. What I would say is that I think that this would push you to put pressure on yourself to perform in a very functional, practical, well-rounded way, in a way that actually pushes you to perform something in the best possible way that you could perform it. I would say astrologically, what you are doing astrology, it's coming through the second house. So the second house is very much personal energy, personal resources, and you probably teach the people who you do astrology for about themselves. Obviously, the second house resonates with Taurus. Taurus resonates with nature and body energy, the resources that we have. And you are abiding by this in a 10th house way. So I would say that you probably are, again, you push yourself to do your astrology by dealing with other astrologers. I know that you've talked to other astrologers about astrology. You push your consciousness in the field of astrology so that everybody else can see it. And you're willing to take the hits. You're willing to be criticized. You're willing to hear everyone's opinion on the thing in order that you can have better critical clarity on anything that you do.
Well, I'm certainly open to every viewpoint, that's for sure.
Yeah. And do you find that you put pressure on yourself in this way to be significantly adept at whatever you do in your life?
Yeah, I could just call it perfectionism.
Very good. That's kind of what I was thinking of
It
trying to
shows
get
up
at.
much more in the music.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I wanted to mention. So when you sit in front of your computer desk, everybody can have creative moments. And for
I mean,
some
I
people,
will work 20 times harder than I need to create the vision that I have versus doing the easy way out that is set up by the world. So I've got my keyboard here. I've got access to any sample I want. Do I use them? No. I might build a song out of them, but I've got this intense, almost rigid idea that every note needs to be real with intention and energy and purpose, and that I am going to only, if I don't play the instrument, I'm not going to use it. And so I will slowly build a song with real instruments and as much life force in it as possible,
wonderful.
as opposed to just quickly building it on a keyboard and throwing it out to the world.
Right.
To me, it's like crafting every nuance of energy so it's just right to have true impact versus just big, easy impact, if that makes sense.
Yep, I'd say
like
so.
a soulful impact versus the Leo kind of like, here I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm totally not into that, but I
Mhm.
definitely, there's this drive to
Perform
craft
it.
and perfect and then reach people in a way that's going to potentially give them something that can potentially change their life and really help them versus just be a product.
Right. No
So
kidding.
hence the healing music and then the healing idea in astrology. It's like everything has that intention for healing, transformation, and purpose.
And I think it's interesting that you're a Libra rising. And of course, with Libra rising, I often say that things can be very funny and inverted in a funny way for Libra rising because everything is flipped. So here we have the 10th Lord, which is the moon. And the 10th Lord is typically conveyed as a hard-working planet, as a hard-working symbol, whatever the 10th Lord or the 10th sign from the rising sign is. And for that to be the moon, it just goes to show this is, conveying the nature of Libra, is they work very hard, but it has to feel good, which is an ironic thing because working hard it's antagonistic to feeling good. But you probably push yourself in a way that you know how to feel good enough to work at your best.
Well, again, I am very much, I walk a razor's edge in life between the feel good is so important and so right on. Because if it's not in alignment with my soul, moon, my sensitive or whatever it is nature will I'll physically feel it.
Right. Wow.
And
That's
there's
amazing.
things I want to do that I can't or I've not been allowed to physically. Like it just, and so I just have to work with that and trust that what it is that I am meant to do, I can do and I can do well. And the things that are not working,
And
I have to let them go.
Right.
And I think that's part of that moon rise ruling the 10th like that.
Yep.
And the Mars, of course, wants to push through and just be able to do it all.
Right.
Neptune is just like, nobody, sorry.
You've got to be with where you're at. That's for sure. But what's interesting is, especially by being with Mars, what I'm conveying in my head here is that when you finally do find something where your body can handle it and your physical energy can handle it, there's something in you that says, all right, if this is the thing that I can do, I'm going to hit it with a sledgehammer.
I'm a runaway train.
Yeah. That totally makes sense to me, Michael.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, like ultimately it's like a tree trying to get through an entanglement or the concrete or something like that. There's all these blockages and all these things that are blocking it from getting there. But once it's getting the sun, it's doing what every other plant is doing.
Oh yeah, it's very interesting combination to live with because part of me is like AAA personality, like the least lazy person you can imagine.
Right.
Just push, go. I don't care. I'm going to make this happen once I've decided to do it. And then another part of me is just like, you can't do that. And to navigate what I've learned in life, and I think this is true for everyone, but especially with a Mars Neptune thing in one's chart, is that the only action has to be guided by spirit. It's not ego.
Wonderful.
And so when I act from spirit and not my ego, everything flows.
Totally.
When I act from my ego or what I think I should do or what society wants me to do or my fans want me to do or I want to do to kind of impress or feel like I'm worthy or whatever stuff. Nope, not happening.
Interesting. Do you do a lot of meditation in order to calm the compulsion of what would be those other extraneous conditions and expectations and things?
I almost have to, and it's a natural thing for me to do and a need. Like it's a very interesting.
I really read that as being a Neptune thing, because Neptune is what will push every person to have a clandestine control of their consciousness. And when Neptune is involved in any aspect, we could say it sucks from the material plane, but on the spiritual plane, you're being almost funneled into pure awareness, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And that sucks when you can't go and do all the things that your ego thinks it wants to do. But when you look at it from the right way, it's probably more of a good thing than a bad thing.
Well, if in my read from the Western astrology perspective, Moon rules career. It's conjunct Mars, but it's also conjunct Neptune. Mars is strong in Scorpio,
Yep.
but it's also in Scorpio connected to Pluto.
Hmm.
It's sextile Pluto, and Pluto
Oh,
is
yeah.
in the 12th. Pluto being from the 12th again emphasizes that Neptune.
Mm.
And then the 6th of the what you need to do to make it happen, the work involved, is
Hmm.
ruled by Pisces. So we look at Pisces, and the ruler of Pisces is both Jupiter, which is in the 12th, and Neptune, which is conjunct the ruler of career. So I cannot
Mm.
get away from that Neptune.
Wow. Very interesting that you're entangled in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, that entanglement can be seen from the Earth perspective as being this thing that I got to do. But it's, not everybody is lucky to have the guru holding their hand metaphysically in their life,
Hmm.
whether they like it or not. It's a beautiful thing to see. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, Michael, I think it's very interesting. And I'm going to say first I should say this. My Atmakaraka is Venus,
Hmm.
and my Venus is debilitated in Virgo.
Hmm.
And I find that there's a certain there's a real strength that can come from anybody who has a debilitated planet as their Atmakaraka.
Interesting.
What I wanted to say, you have a similar position to somebody who's very important in my life is Paramahansa Yogananda.
Hmm.
Paramahansa Yogananda, according to my tropical Vedic shtick, was Moon Atmakaraka with the moon in Scorpio.
Ah.
And so I've been talking a lot about the moon on my channel, what it means when it's debilitated and exalted and what have you.
Hmm.
Usually typically the moon, like it when it conveys the energy of Taurus, it is looking all around for what it needs. It's looking at the people in its life and the environment, and it's resourceful about how it gets its needs. And it can use those things outside of itself. And when you have the moon debilitated in Scorpio, like you do, and like Paramahansa Yogananda did, I find Paramahansa Yogananda is an interesting character because he didn't really need anybody or
Hmm.
anything in order to abide by the most comfortable energy within himself. The
And
moon is, what's that?
he fiercely followed his soul's path from a
Right.
young age with fearlessly. It's amazing, his story.
Totally. And
Love him.
yes, I love his story. And even when he was very young, he questioned like everything. He was kind of like he was a bit rebellious.
Oh, he was. Love
Like
it.
he just said to everything that I feel within myself that I don't necessarily need to be involved in this in order for me to ground myself in what I'm trying to do in my life. And I'm reading in some ways that it breeds what I would call, people get the moon is a funny thing because we all need it, and it's the support, it's the mother that holds our hand, it's the people around us who help us get through anything that we need to get through. And that's an important thing, but to be too needy of the things around you, of in your external environment, or even the things and people who are bonded to you in your soul, ultimately, if it's outside of yourself, it's not grounded in your own power and consciousness. I find for somebody to have the moon Atmakaraka in Scorpio, it means that they are going on the other extreme, which is that they could be letting go of useful things in their environment that would help them to ground their emotions, but they usually will let go of all those external supports in order to develop a lack of a need for it.
Hmm.
And this is one of those things where it has blessings and it has it has difficulties, just like many positions in astrology can. In this case, I think it is a very cool thing for you to have what I would say an energetic independence.
Hmm.
Do you kind of read with me when I kind of say that?
I see it from a different perspective.
Okay.
in terms of the sun creates this energetic independence,
Mm.
squaring the moon, Mars, Neptune, which has a certain
Mm.
kind of dependence of some sort. But it's a very interesting way of reading it.
Mm.
So I'm just opening.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. One of the things I wanted to resonate with this is that you're a Libra rising. Your chart lord Venus is in Aries with Rahu. And there's a real funny, you and we've mentioned that we're going to hang out with each other and do each other's charts, and we only need to go so deep with this, but I think there's certainly a conversation happening with the rising lord Libra, which is Venus, being in its opposite sign of Aries. And, Libra rising tends to initiate their life path by listening to what's outside of them. They can be very opportunistic, Libras, because their initiation comes from opportunities that are all around them. And whereas, and everybody has their strengths. Aries can pioneer anything in a room, in a straitjacket. They can create a new idea with nothing outside of them.
Mm-hmm.
But they lack the engagement of the opportunities of things, of varieties of life, of things that they could branch from. For Libra, they initiate their life path usually through things in their environment. For this Venus to be in Aries, there's a really funny sort of trading off going on here, where that initiation of things in the environment is ultimately going to be instigated. You are probably somebody who looks around at the things all in your environment, and the Venus in Aries is kind of you're looking to share yourself by putting your finger in it, by poking things, by prodding people to engage with you. And you're probably somebody who supports other people's ideas by kind of challenging them to think differently about their ideas.
I do, though I do it in a very Libran way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that
Maybe
makes
almost
sense.
surprisingly because of the strong Mars in the chart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what I do find is I quietly look at the world and think it's pretty fucked.
Yes.
The way people do things and the emptiness of it all, and that Aries, Venus, Mars energy is just like,
Mm.
I can't do it that way. I've got to find a way that really resonates with what I feel and what I see
That's very
beyond the
interesting.
surface of things,
Hmm.
which sometimes leaves me able to connect to others, but kind of not really wanting to.
Yeah. Michael, one of the things that I think is amazing is that because the moon is in Scorpio, we've talked about how you have this capacity to not necessarily need anybody at an emotional level in order for you to do the great work that you're trying to do in this life. Of course, you are everybody, no matter what their planets are, you are still somebody who is a human, who has a heart, and who connects with other people in the way that you do. I think it's interesting that having the moon in Scorpio shows a lack of need to attach to other people while this conversation is happening between Libra and Aries and this initiation. This is kind of how I'm thinking of it in my head, is when like a politician or, anybody, when they make a decision in the world of politics, oftentimes we see that those people are actually shaking hands with the familiar people that they're actually trying to help. It's like, let's say we've got a politician who says, hey, everybody, I think it would be really good for our economy if we start investing into gas. And you secretly come to find that this person was shaking hands with a petrol company. And he doesn't have the interests of the real economy at heart. His motives are attached to other people. And I think that's typically a moon thing. his building his political platform is coming from the moon shaking hands with people sort of close to him. I think you, Michael Moon, you are somebody for whom, whenever you make any statement about where the world is going, where the economy should be going, where, if you're in a band and you're thinking that this is what we should do, Michael is not shaking hands with anybody behind closed doors.
Nope.
You are somebody, it's like, when you're talking to an astrology client, you will probably, when you tell them that you think that they should do something, it's not coming from a place of like, maybe this will get Michael something. It's just like fixing a leaky faucet.
Yeah, it's pure for sure.
Right. And I thought that would be something that I've always seen that in a bit of your consciousness there. So there's an interesting conversation happening here with all this stuff. And, I'm glad that we kind of talked about it here, Michael. Now, the last thing I would say is that you've got the sun in Aquarius, and it's really close to that 4th and 5th cusp, which really probably you've got it very close to the 5th cusp, actually. And there's probably a consciousness of a creatorship in you that you probably apply a lot in your life. I think it's very interesting to see it all, Mike. Now, I think we could go on about this stuff forever.
We really can.
Yes, and I can't wait to hang out with you and just shoot the shit about it. Now, did you have anything? Do you want to talk about my chart before we go into what we were doing? And do you want to just shoot the shit in that
You'd
one?
like me to? Do you have a picture of your chart?
I
so
sure
I don't have
do.
to share my screen.
Yep, absolutely. Now, let's see if we can get this going. And Michael, I invite you because I knew that this would happen, where if we start talking about each other's charts, there's so many things to talk about. We've given lots of space for yours. I invite you to do what I just did and speak to whatever you see here. My audience is going to be stoked on it, and I'm stoked on it. And go as far as you would like, my friend, and then we'll just shoot the shit about some general.
Bore people or go overboard, though your chart's certainly not boring.
Awesome. Good to hear.
You're not a boring person.
There's a lot going on.
Well, as there is in everyone's chart, to be honest. We all have a lot going on, and that's what makes us all special, and it's everybody has a very interesting chart.
Yeah, importance is a subjective thing.
There's certain resonances we have, of course, with certain types of things. So, I mean, immediately we see the Scorpio resonance, and that's what strikes me as soon as I look at this chart. The sun is not the first place I always look in a chart. I just look at the part of the chart where I see a lot of energy.
Right.
But yours is centered around that sun, with the Mars exact conjunction in Scorpio being the ruler of Scorpio. And then Pluto, the secondary ruler, there as well.
No kidding.
Pluto, any of the outer planets, to me, being conjunct, especially a personal planet, takes an archetype that's very hard to personalize. So the outer planets, if they're not connected to personal planets, tend to just be floating out there. But when they are connected to a personal planet, one has to, in life, work with that archetype. And
Pluto's a funny bedfellow.
So with the sun and Pluto, you are needing to embody the Plutonian archetype, and it's ruling the Scorpio, and the Mars emphasizes this through the roof. Yet it's in the 4th house, deep inside. And
I should say, Michael, and I'm sorry to say this, but this I've done a birth rectification since I showed this. So my MC, I consider it to be an Aries, and I consider my 5th.
Aries.
Yep, that's what you've got. Okay, good. So unfortunately for everybody watching, I wish I had the proper birth rectified chart. I just realized this. Okay. So let's say my 4th cusp is probably in Libra, and my 5th cusp is in Scorpio.
Well, in my version of astrology that I tend to just habitually use, it's your Sun, Mars, and Pluto are deeply in the 4th in intercepted Scorpio. So
Right.
Scorpio does not rule a house, interestingly, which is a whole other interesting conversation. And
Hmm.
so um, you
Very
have
interesting.
fifth rule by Sag and the fourth rule by Libra, and
Cool.
Scorpio is intercepted in
Cool.
fourth, deep in the fourth. But this is my version, so I'm just going to go with what I
Yes.
see here, and you're going to have your own take on it. And this is actually an important thing to talk about because people can often, especially between traditional Jyotish and Western, are so different in their foundational sidereal versus tropical, etc.,
Hmm.
that they can almost say that, well, they can't both be right.
Hmm.
So either one is wrong or they're both wrong, and astrology is full of shit because,
Yeah.
and I beg to differ. This is where I go back to, is it a science or religion? It's an art.
Mm.
It's a
Wonderful.
language, even more so. And in a language, all what's important is that you can communicate in that language. And
I
we're
agree.
working with the language of where the planets were in relation to our home on the earth
Mm-hmm.
and the geometry of all that and the way that that is presented. How we build that language from there, there's no problem. It's just like the English language is built from a series of letters that the
Mm-hmm.
French language is built from,
Right.
German language is built from. It's like they're very different languages with the same basic letters. Astrology is built with the same basic letters, but it's different
Ways of
ways of
orienting the
communicating
letters.
it.
Cool.
And none of them are wrong. French is not better than English. English is
Cool.
not better than German. They all work to
That's a great
communicate
way to put
something.
it,
It's
Michael.
just that both people need to understand that language.
Mm.
So, and to trust that language,
Mm-hmm.
and French might be better at communicating certain romantic kind of sentiments than English, but
Wonderful.
English might be better at communicating other
Nuts
things.
and bolts.
So
Mm.
they both have strengths, but they're not
Wonderful.
wrong. And this is really important when it comes to astrology because there are different languages, and there's the Jyotish versus Western big language discrepancy,
Mm-hmm.
and then even Chinese, Asian,
Yep.
which is a huge language discrepancy. We've got like a
Right.
complete, just like the Asian languages and the Chinese language is completely different.
They don't root
They
it
don't
in
even like
Latin.
there's no Western alphabet or anything.
Yeah. Very good. That's a great way to put it, Mike.
Just is.
Yeah.
And they each have their strengths. So in Western astrology, there's many different also. There's different house systems. Are we
Right.
going to use whole house systems? Are we going to use natural houses? Are we going to use I've got Placidus here,
Okay.
but you could use Koch, you could use
Campanus.
one of those is its own subtle finesse of the language.
Mm.
Anyone right or wrong, it actually doesn't matter if you understand that language and you've learned that language. Just because you use conch or use whole houses, I use placidus, none of us are wrong as long as you
Yeah.
understand what those house systems are, how they're derived, why you align with it, and you're used to working with it so you know how to read it.
Very good.
You try and flip reading your way a chart in Western astrology and you look at a Jyotish chart, good luck. No,
Yeah.
it's like you can't do it. Your brain will explode. It looks the same and it's completely different.
Right.
It's
Right.
different language with the same letters. So you can apply things to each, but you have to be very careful because they say things in different ways.
Mm. Even accents are a thing, I would almost say the houses are almost like accents. When you hear someone with a very thick Jamaican patois and they say, I got tree at ease, and they're saying tree instead of three, they're saying what they mean, but someone listening can just get
Yep.
completely lost in what's being conveyed.
So from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to see that in your fifth house and you're going to see yourself super creative and with all that intensity. I see it in the fourth, which to me shows a super powerful soul depth
Mm.
that craves going deep, 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 deep in. To the
Mm-hmm.
point sometimes it's almost like too much for the people around you. It's like you don't want to be on the surface.
Yeah, I totally can relate with that. I make a joke and I say, "Hello, everybody. My name is Pluto. I'll be your antagonist for this evening."
And that brings up an energy of this energy of this aspect or alignment, because it's Mars with Pluto karmically is a soul at war. It's been in battle. It's like it, and there's wounds from it. There's intensity from it. There's the life or death energy is present, and that creates a magic, because you live with death right there, so you live every moment to the fullest.
Wonderful.
Imagine you're just sitting on a beach and you're hanging out, and you're just hanging out, and the day just floats by. Now a Scorpio comes and crawls on your foot, and you're like, oh fuck, it could bite me any second. What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, time stands still, and you are so intensely in that moment that a minute can feel like the whole day. It's so intense, because you've got to figure out what to do, how to be completely chill and live with this situation, and figure it out, feel it out, because you can't figure it out. You have, Scorpion is not going to work on an intellectual level. You've got to feel like, how do I don't freak this thing out so I can get it off me? So in that moment, you are going to be feeling the moment intensely, and that's Scorpio, and that is the archetype of Scorpio, but so extreme with Mars and Pluto in the fourth.
You know what? I'm offended. We should fight. Yeah, I feel it, Mike. That's very good. I think one of my greatest missions, one of my great spiritual missions that I've had to deal with in my life is compensating for what used to almost like a short man syndrome, where I had to show everybody, look at how fucking special I am. Look at all this stuff that
I'm going to get into that, actually.
Yeah, very good.
So this is the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the core of your being, but this is fourth house. This is hidden. This is deep. This is like, this is deep stuff. Then here you've got Sag Moon, playful, fun, Sag Moon in the fifth house. You have Leo rising. All of a sudden, it's like the color has changed. It's like you've got this intense inner nature, but your whole external is like, hey, let's play.
Yeah, totally.
Let's have fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever heard the crazy world of Arthur Brown. I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you fire. Fire to burn.
Yeah, cool.
You've got to do a cover of that song. You're gonna love it if you don't know it.
Sick, dude. Okay, I'm gonna write it down right now.
Song,
fire.
So this energy of this playful, creative. So now we got the fifth. This is where the fifth comes in my read of this. North Node conjunct Uranus in the fifth in Capricorn. Moon in Sag in the fifth, and you've got Mercury right on the cusp, but I place in the fifth as well. So this creative expression that resonates with your Leo rising. The Leo rising with that Moon fifth and Mercury fifth is like, it has to express. Burning intensity inside needs to come out. It needs to be expressed.
I see. If I'm reading it correctly, I feel like everybody with this Mars, Sun, Pluto in the fourth house is going to have this depth of soul and this deep intensity that you're talking about. But for me, I kind of have to wield it and accept it and talk about it and just learn to be playful with it because of all this fifth house energy.
Yeah. And really, to me, this chart screams the music you do. Now, I've actually truthfully never heard the music you do, and I need to. You need to share it with me at some point.
Oh, sure, Michael. Yeah, it's I do a lot of punky stuff.
Well, I can imagine it's very intense, and it should be very intense. And this chart screams rock star to me. I got
cool. That's an awesome feeling to hear.
It's much more than mine. I mean, mine
Hmm.
shows like inner world artist, musician for sure, but yours is
Hmm.
like performer.
Hmm.
You can command an audience with this energy. That Scorpio, Mars, Pluto is very charismatic and very has the energy to burn. And then the Leo has the desire to share it. The moon has the playfulness to go along with it. And the challenge for you, and there's lots of other things going on the chart, but a reading for me takes like 2 hours at least. So
For sure.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
go into everything, but the gist of what I'm seeing is that Uranus North Node in Capricorn in the fifth. It's
Mhm.
like, yes, that fifth Leo energy is so strong that needs to express, but karmically, you have issues with it. It's
Mhm.
broken. You have tried to express yourself in the past and you have been cut down, killed. That warrior energy. It's like you've been like, fuck you. And then the system or whatever has just
Mhm.
chopped your head off.
Right.
So that energy is both feisty and fiery and just like, fuck you. It needs to come out. And
Mhm.
another part of it is like, terrified.
Yeah. I'm
If
getting to chill just the way you're reading this. Totally.
for you to fully wield that sword that you were born with, that spiritual, powerful, emotional charge that can come through the music and transform. And it's interesting that the astrology have chosen to do, has a sword to it. It's like you're challenging two systems and going, you know what? It's not either or. There can be an and there can be new ways of looking at things, and you're going to go right in the middle of it with that sword and go with that intensity and kind of
I have to
stand your.
see what this is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's this at the same time this quivering, like, oh my god, like what the fuck am I doing, like,
Totally.
and yet your soul calls you. You can see that. Why the Uranus North Node, very strong,
Mm.
is calling you to be your unique, independent, out of the box, out of society's box form, but in Capricorn. And
Interesting.
so Capricorn is very interesting because Capricorn, there's some signs seem to be understood in our Western mind better than others.
Mhm.
And in my mind, Capricorn is a misunderstood sign
Yep. Gotcha.
because we immediately think Capricorn, business, cutthroat, practical.
Heartless and bit and
So not
functional.
true.
Mm.
Capricorn is the feminine expression of Saturn.
Huh.
It's a feminine sign. It is a sign that builds for our children's children's children. It's a sign that is focused on 7 generations to come. It is the
Wow.
most environmental of all the signs. It is the
Mhm.
sign that picks. Sagittarius is here and now. What we think of as the corporate thing and we blame on Capricorn is totally Sag Jupiter.
Wow. Cool. Totally. I get that.
Expansion, constant like growth, growth, growth. We want more, 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 more. That's not Saturn and Capricorn. Capricorn
Mm.
structure. So the original idea of the corporation, the idea that we're going to build something that lives beyond us, is Capricorn.
That's
So
gonna
it's a
last.
structure that's not us anymore. It's something else, and it's going to last beyond our life.
Wow.
Capricorn. But that is living life beyond our life and seeing what impact we have now affects beyond our ego and our life.
That's
Cap-
amazing. I really, if I, for me to resonate with that, like I think one of the callings that I've had in my life is just really dealing with ecology and, something I'm interested in is living with other people.
It's
And
very community oriented,
yeah,
and so Capricorn is the opposite sign of Cancer, and with the
mhm,
total axis, you always have that balance of
for
opposites.
sure. Yeah.
So Cancer and Capricorn, Cancer is the mothering energy. It's the here and now nurturing. Capricorn is the nurturing of our 7 generations ahead.
Wow. That's amazing.
So in your chart, you have this Cancer South Node in the 11th, So this is past life stuff now. This is stuff you know well.
Mm.
You have learned, you also have that fourth house Scorpio. So this intense home family energy in the 11th. So the clan, like you've been a warrior for the clan.
Right. Probably for my personal clan in
Yes,
past
you're
lives.
very personal. So this
Yeah.
is very personal.
Yeah.
But it's also the negative of that is like the box
Hmm.
of being having to be something, and if you expand out of that, it's dangerous to the clan. I mean, we're missing family in our culture, so it's very easy to look in the past and go, "Oh my God, we're missing this whole family structure that we used to have," and it truly is a problem in our culture.
Certainly.
Um, Governments and society and stuff can't control the clan.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful entity of that can hold its own views and its own energy, but that's also its negative. It can be so
In the
its
box.
own thing that
Hmm.
if you're not in it, which you're not, your energy is out of the box. Uranus on the North Node. You're not meant to be in that energy anymore. You need to express the uniqueness, but do it in a grounded Capricorn, building a new foundation, a new community, a new way of being in the fifth. The fifth, creativity, um, playfulness, uh, the self-expression.
You know, it's amazing, Michael. Like,
Well, so like helping children, helping build their foundation
mm,
could be something you eventually do because you have this Peter Pan like fun, playful thing that like kids love. It's going to be natural,
wonderful.
and you're not afraid to like play rough and be wild and like they love it. Like
Yeah.
in you.
Oh, Michael, that's amazing. You
So
know, something I'm interested in doing eventually is like, this is calling me very deeply, is to leave where I've been in Canada for all of my life. I'm interested in going and checking out things like, for example, there are communes propping up in places like Costa Rica
yep,
where people are living communally. They're living outside of the
yep,
capitalist paradigm of North America, where my family lineage and dynasty is trying to grow through the hard business that it does for my family, all that Cancer 11th stuff.
yep,
I'm being called, I feel, to go to places like Costa Rica, live with a bunch of people where it's not, nobody is, in places like that, it's not about your family clan. There's a world community that I want to just plunge into.
yeah.
And it has made me pay less attention to my own family and my own clan. But I think that that's the part of the axis I'm working on here.
And the trick here is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with the South Node. It's something
Got it.
that you is a strength. Your family will be there to support you as long as you don't push it
Chew
to.
them out.
It's, but you do need to leave that structure and create your own.
While still having one toe back there.
Well, it's just karmically, energetically, it's strong. I mean,
Cool.
all that fourth house Scorpio and then the South Node in the 11th. You have challenges with your family. There's no
Hmm.
doubt about it.
Yep.
Like you are a unique, fiery, feisty individual, and you're not going to fit the mold.
Yeah, the old black sheep.
They still love you.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're right, Michael. You're reading this like to the book. I think a lot of people in my family don't quite understand what I'm doing, but perhaps because the South Node has a resonance where they seem to just, there was a long time where it was the crab in the bucket thing. Like,
Mm.
Dust, where are you going? We need you. And but as time has gone on, I think my family, I still love them very deeply. I keep them very close to my heart and close to my life. And they see me trying to leave the bucket, and they're like, okay, if anyone can do it, Dustin can.
Well, the thing is that one of the important last things I want to mention that I think
Hmm.
that's very strong in your chart, and I've sort of mentioned it. So you have Uranus North Node fifth.
Hmm.
Challenges in that self-expression and totally owning that Leo nature. You have Chiron on the ascendant. Again, there's wounding to your self-expression. wounding to your enthusiasm and strength of I am presence that is intrinsic to this chart. With Chiron right on the ascendant, you have to own the Chironic energy, which is the energy of the healing path. And so it's going to create an unusual sense of insecurity, an unusual mix of pushing too much and being too, you kind of almost touched upon it yourself when you said that there's this kind of like small man syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
that Chiron is very much related to that and has nothing to do with you being small. It's just, but it's that energy of feeling somehow there's something wrong with you that you've got to overprove, Leo.
Right. Yep.
And then it never works to overprove it.
Certainly.
It just ends up attracting more wounding. But then when you underestimate yourself, it also kind of undercuts yourself.
Certainly.
There's this constant balance for you of owning the feeling of woundedness, the feeling of that you're not quite enough, and stepping through it, and just being for all to see, just like you're letting the world hear your reading here. It's like, here I am. I'm on my journey, and yeah, I fucked up. You know, I said something maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I was too intense. Like whatever, or just let yourself be it. Let yourself explore that unfolding of your creative self-expression full on. Your heart on your sleeve kind of energy.
Wow.
Even your heart feels broken.
Yeah, that's so wonderful, Michael.
And that aligns with, it's square the Mars Pluto internal, like that really core intensity, but that square is being called out.
Yeah, constantly.
Fruit to that Leo rising, and that's echoed by the Uranus North Node 5th. So all that to me is like your music is your healing savior. To step out on that stage and just be raw.
And to even be hurting.
Total like Pluto rawness. Sing your heart out, sing your pain. Let them have it. Let the world hear it. Let yourself explore your pain through your creativity on stage is so powerful for you as a soul that it's going to get attention.
Wow.
And
that is amazing.
Real and less afraid of being real you are, the more attention it's going to get. And Chiron is ultimately the teacher and leader and healer. And you're basically doing healing music, even though it might sound like punk music or whatever you might call it. Just as much as I am.
Wonderful.
And to really own that this is a healing journey, sonic experience for you. To me, like this chart, you're young enough, you've got this vibe, this is intensity. You could make it in music as a front raw rockin'.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Michael.
Leader. I mean that you know, everything is below the horizon, so your energy is not really looking to
be out, and
yet at the same time, it's definitely a part of your journey to explore it. And as long as you're at core with your inner worlds, you never know what might resonate with people with this. So there's something very powerful here around that to me is very important in this chart.
It's amazing, Michael. You know, I've been interested in Chiron, and I've heard in Western readings a very similar thing, although I've never heard it put in the way that you did it. I've got one song with my band that I can think of that is screaming what you're talking about. We've recorded it and we're going to be putting it out this year, and it's called Just Fucking Send It. And the whole idea is that all these hard things are happening, and then there plunges into a chorus where I'm looking at the audience, and I do a stop, and I point at the audience, and I pull my, you know, like my finger saying, "Come here, just fucking send it. I'm ready for it." And then it keeps going with that kind of energy. The way that you've put this is mesmerizing, Mike.
Yeah, and in my chart system here, Aries is on the 10th, so Mars is ruling it. It's exactly conjunct the Sun. Again, echoes that 12th or that Leo,
Hmm.
um, the need to express.
Wow.
And if you sit on all this energy without moving it, it'll burn you out. It's like sitting on a volcano.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been told that.
So it doesn't matter how successful your band is, you need to do it just to move the energy. But when you do it with as much authenticity as possible, like so Leo's ultimate goal is authenticity. When authenticity is broken, so you got the Chiron, you've got the North Node and the fifth. Leo can go into its shadow nature, which is what everybody thinks of as a Leo. They're full of themselves. They're too much.
Yep. Yep.
They always want attention. That's
And they're
just Leo feeling insecure and not knowing how to deal with it. So it pushes too much. And
very
so
interesting.
the correction for Leo is the pure authenticity of here I am, I'm expressing myself. And I'm terrified of my uniqueness. It's the opposite of Aquarius,
Mhm.
but I'm going to own it. And
Wow. Totally. Michael, I think
I
that,
get attention. I am just going to be authentic. And that's when Leo gets attention because people go, wow, that's true authenticity. I love it.
oh, wow. I resonate so much with that authenticity. And one of the things I wanted to say is that one of the great parts of my whole journey, before I was in the band that I'm in right now, the band that I'm in now is we live by the heart with each other. And I really resonate with the band I'm in now. Because I will come out with a creative idea and everybody will support me on it. But I also support when we're a three piece and my
Nice.
brother writes half of the music.
Nice.
So we're a left and right hand for each other, where when I do my thing, my band is like, whatever it is, Dust, we're here for it. And I fully do it. And then I do the same thing when my brother writes his songs. So I have,
That's very interesting that you work with your brother with the South Node Cancer
aha,
stuff, and then the fourth house career ruler in the fourth with the Sun, Pluto.
right, right. There's the fourth and the 10th are kind of being enmeshed in that interesting sort of way.
Very powerful there, and like that the sibling rivalry that could get in there. But if you guys can be playful with it versus real,
Yep. Yep.
be real. Obviously, the authenticity, but
Hmm.
to not let that carry over.
To ruin things.
Laugh at each other's stuff versus holding it back or taking it too seriously. You can really play that up and
Hmm.
make that part of the show, even if
Totally. To
you
be
know.
honest with you, Mike, if you saw our interactions, we totally do what you're doing or what you're saying, and ultimately we love each other. And we had a good mother who made sure that we loved each other no matter what.
And with all this, you've got Mercury trying that Chiron ascendant, so it's you're able to express it. Fifth house,
Wow. Very cool, Mike. I think,
moon
yeah, and
with that, and there's so many other things, but I'll leave it at that as a taste.
sure. Yeah, that was
So,
Mike. I love the way that you conveyed that. And it's a funny thing to try to, bring up an astrology chart. And I'm glad that you didn't examine all the ugliest parts of my spider web, which anybody easily could when doing this kind of thing. Maybe when we do our personal session, we can get through all the hardest rocky gunk in there.
absolutely, and it's important to be real because we need to learn. But
Mhm.
I also believe in the idea of definitely mentioning the gunk, but also pointing people where it wants to go.
Right, right.
Or
Because the
It's like it's like yeah, there's all this stuff, and I'm sure you feel it,
Mhm.
but this is where you can really use that energy positively and just keep helping them because as soon as they start using it positively, it's going to leave the other. Like, once you move the energy where it can really fulfill itself, the places where it gets stuck in our lives and constantly causes the same problems, the same bad relationships.
Mm.
Relationships is a great example because
Mm.
when there's aspects of our chart that are unintegrated, we attract that in partners.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
we can attract the same energy and the same partners over and over again until we integrate ourselves. And so we can blame another all we want. It's not them. I mean, that doesn't
Mm.
mean you put up with abuse,
Right. Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like, but the navigating that abuse is part of that journey. So
Certainly.
keep attracting that. There's a part of you that's attracting that. And that energy of self-deprecation is in you. And
Hmm.
you're taking that in until you own it and you go say no to that energy, both within and without, those relationships are going to keep coming. So
You know, what's funny is that I've sat with my own energy in relationships with my partners, and there's a lot of times where I always thought that I have a shell of rock stardom that girls and the people that are attracted to me in relationship, they come to see this Leo extravaganza, but then when they actually sit with me, were you expecting to be sitting with Pluto today? I didn't think that you did, but my girlfriend right now that I'm with, she's a sweetheart. She saw me and I thought that she was not ready for what she actually got. But when I sat with her over, like, I've been going out with her for 3 years, and for the first bit, there's a rockiness of, like, like I feel like I'm just not the person that I want to be, and I'm not as strong as you are that you like I look. And she just sat with me and is like, I know what you're feeling. I'm here. All I can do is show you that I love you by being here. You're going to do the Scorpio thing and invert in and out and explode and be a volcano, and I'm still going to be here.
nice. Yeah, that's definitely one of your shadows to work with, but
Yeah, for
you,
sure.
you can't just hold it back, which is why I was directing you like how important that music is.
Cool.
You can be like ready to explode on a situation and you just have to walk away, and if you can write a song with it and go to band practice and let it out and get on stage and let it out, that's it diffuses it beautifully, like.
Totally.
So
I appreciate that, Michael. You've done such a good read on my chart there. Now, what often happens here, Michael, is I anticipated that this would happen. We've gone quite long
of course.
talking about our charts. We're both Scorpios. I knew that this would happen. So at this point, I'd like to throw this at you, Mike. I had a feeling that we would just do, like, this has been a really great session in itself. I wonder if you'd be interested to I was thinking maybe we could. I've got a million questions that I'd like to talk with you about. But what I am aware that on YouTube, when a video goes like much longer than about an hour, it gets like heavy. Like not everybody wants to watch that long of a video.
Oh, you can make it two.
We could make it 2 hours. So
Just make it two videos.
yes, I see what you mean. We can make it 2 videos. So it's 2 o'clock right now. Do you want to close up shop on this video and then for us to talk a little bit about some other things and make it another video?
That's completely up to you.
Yeah. Do you have time, I guess?
Yeah, my afternoon's open.
Cool. All right, Michael. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the recording for right now. I'm going to stop it. For everybody watching, this has been my dear good friend, Michael Moon, hanging out with me and talking with me about our mutual charts. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, Mike.
My pleasure.
For everybody who's interested, again, if you enjoyed how Mike laid down my chart in the way that he has, you can find Michael and you can contact him for a reading or just to see everything he's got going on at thetempleofsound.com. Feel free to check it out, give him an email, and see all the wonderful stuff that he's got going on. Because Michael, I love your consciousness. I love that you seem so similar to everything that I'm going for. And I appreciate you taking the time to lend your knowledge in the field of astrology to myself and to everybody in my audience today.
And in a way, our charts show that kind of compatibility of a relationship where you have the sun is in the same sign as the other's moon.
Oh yeah.
So you can really understand each other from the outside understands the inside, and the inside understands the outside. It's
Wonderful.
a nice balance. And of course, we both have that exact Mars moon for me and Mars sun for you. So it's very interesting.
We're both very Scorpio Mars people for sure. And it's interesting that, a lot of people say a lot of different things about Scorpio. We both got into such depths in our individual charts. And I think that this conversation is lending towards this idea that we can get right to those guts and even see all the fiery things. But because you and I are yogis, we're both interested in peace, we're both friends, we can sit by the sharp knives that are poking out of our shirts and still hang out.
All right.
And I love you for it, Mike.
Love and rock and roll.
Hell yeah, buddy. So everybody, thank you so much for watching, and keep your eyes peeled because you're going to be seeing more of me and Michael hanging out on my show. Take care, folks.